Welcome to Trading to Rise. Today, we're kicking off a masterclass on the psychology of consistent profits. You ever wonder why so many brilliant traders, people with incredible strategies, still end up failing? Well, it's almost never about their charts or their indicators. It's about what's going on up here in their heads. So today, we're going to dive deep into the core mental traps that sabotage most traders, and more importantly, how you can finally break free. And this quote right here, it just nails the central problem. Think about it. Your job, your daily routine, it all has structure. But the market, it's a river of pure, unstructured chaos. It's always moving. There are no rules, there's no schedule, and there is nobody, and I mean nobody, to tell you what to do next. All right, so let's really unpack this idea, this metaphor of the market as a river. Because if you want to have any chance of navigating it successfully, you first have to really truly understand the environment you're stepping into. I mean, think about our normal lives, right? We're surrounded by structure. You've got a job with a boss, set hours, clear tasks you need to get done. Society basically gives us guardrails to keep us on the road. The market, on the other hand, throws all of that out the window. It gives you total, absolute freedom. You and only you decide when to get in, when to get out, and how much you're willing to risk. There are zero safety nets. And here's the real kicker, the paradox of it all. That absolute freedom is one of the biggest psychological traps you can fall into. Because without a structure that you build for yourself, your own personal set of rules, you're not actually navigating that river. You're just adrift. And sooner or later, those currents are going to pull you under. This brings us right to the heart of the conflict, the thing that paralyzes most traders. We're going to call it the responsibility paradox. So, if having rules is so obviously the solution, why do so many traders actively avoid them? It seems crazy, right? Well, it's a paradox, and there's a really powerful psychological reason for it. And there it is. That's the terrifying truth that nobody wants to face. If you're the one who sets the rules, you have no one else to blame. A big win? That's on you. But a crushing loss? Yeah, that's on you too. And that level of raw, unfiltered accountability is something most of us are hardwired to run away from. So what does this look like in the real world? It creates this vicious, self-sabotaging loop. It starts with wanting to make money, obviously. But that's immediately followed by the fear of taking responsibility. So what happens? You trade without a plan. You trade on a gut feeling, on an impulse. And your results? They start to feel mysterious, random. A lucky win here, an unlucky loss there. And that randomness lets you blame the market, not your decisions. It's a defense mechanism. So how do traders try to escape this internal conflict? Well, the sad truth is, most don't. Instead, they fall headfirst into a really common and incredibly destructive trap, the herd mentality. You can probably picture this, right? You're drawn to the action, the market is moving fast, you've got that FOMO kicking in, but you have no plan. So what do? You do what feels safest in that moment. You just copy what everyone else seems to be doing. You assume the crowd must know something you don't. But this quote just perfectly exposes the huge flaw in that logic. You think you're following a leader, but you're not. You're just following other followers. It's a huge herd of confused individuals, all just mirroring each other's panic and greed, creating these massive waves of movement with absolutely no real strategy behind any of it. It's the blind leading the blind. And the consequences of this are, frankly, devastating. Your results are completely random, so you never actually learn anything. You're constantly plagued by this intense anxiety and fear because you're not in control. You feel powerless. And this is when you start getting into superstitions, right? Like wearing a lucky shirt, because you're so desperate for any kind of explanation for what's happening. Man, this quote is brutal, but it is so true. Let that sink in for a second. Trading without a plan, being at the mercy of the crowd and your own chaotic impulses, it literally puts you in a constant state of fear. You're always just waiting for the market to do something to you. Okay, but here's the good news. There is a way out of all this chaos. You don't have to be a victim of the market. So let's talk about the path from that state of terror to becoming a cool, calm, disciplined professional. Now, the key here is to redefine what taking responsibility even means. It's not about being perfect or beating yourself up when you make a mistake. It's actually a function of self-acceptance. It's about seeing your mistakes not as failures, but as valuable data. The moment you accept that mistakes are just part of the process, you stop fearing them. And when you stop fearing them, you finally start learning from them.
So here's the path forward, broken down into 3 simple, actionable steps. First, you have to create your structure. That's your trading plan, your set of rules. Second, you commit to taking total responsibility for executing that plan. And third, and this is maybe the most important, you practice self-acceptance. So when you mess up, and you will, you learn from it instead of letting it destroy your confidence.
I absolutely love this metaphor. The whole goal of this process is to stop being a blade of grass, just passively getting bent and blown around by the whims of the market. Instead, you become a navigator. You don't control the river. You never will, but you understand its currents. You know how to use them, and you can chart your own course through the chaos. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. If you remember just one thing from our time together today, let it be this. The market is nothing more than a giant reflection of collective human psychology, fear and greed on a global scale. So, to master the market, you must first master yourself. So I'll leave you with this one question, and it really applies to way more than just trading. In any area of your life filled with uncertainty, you have to ask yourself, are you navigating the river or are you just being carried by the current? I want you to take this question and these lessons into your very next trading session. See what changes when you decide to become the navigator. The answer to that question, well, it's everything. Thanks for joining this masterclass. Make sure you subscribe to Trading to Rise so you don't miss the next episode in this series.